Hello there, citizens of a galaxy called Dallas. This is James, and I'm coming to you today with a comic book review. The comic book in question is Demons in the Dark by David Doub. David is the main writer on it. It's written by him. It's illustrated by Dominic Racho and lettered by Daniel Chan. It is in black and white, 44 pages of artwork, which is way better than any comic book you'll find out there, at least unless you pay an arm and a leg for them. David, a lot of you may be familiar with the name. David's been around in the scene for quite a while. I met David back in 2009 when I started a galaxy called Dallas, back when it was a comic book and kind of a geek blog about the Dallas geek community. And so, a little over 10 years now that I've known him. He's published other titles, Dusk. He's one of my favorites, The Trials and Tribulations of Mrs. Tilney, which is a Penny Dreadful in comic book form. And then this is the new one that he's trying to work on. He's done one Kickstarter that didn't come to fruition, and he had a publisher that lined up that was going to do the work for him, but they fell through here because of the COVID-19 and all the other stuff that's going on. So he's been having some trials and tribulations of his own. And he's working on doing another Kickstarter here in the fall. But in the meantime, he had some preview copies printed up so that he could give them out to people who would do some video reviews. So in all transparency, that's how I got this copy, was that I would do a video in return. I have to admit, one of the first things that struck me was the artwork. I love the cover. Cover is very well done. Inside, it's all black and white. There's I also note that it is a mature comic book. Anything less from David is just it's just out of character. There's blood. There's a little bit of gore. There is the situations. There's no sex or anything like that, but there is a lot of language. There is some sexual innuendo. But beyond that, again, it's a mature title. The story is one that Dave's has had in his head for quite a while, according to him, and it is basically pulled from his memories of growing up as a geek in the early to mid 90s, playing D&D, being bullied, and I can relate to that. Growing up, I played D&D in the late 70s, early 80s, and same thing. There was, if you played D&D, you were a nerd, you're a geek, and you got picked on a lot. Nowadays, it's more mainstream as far as D&D. It's granted there are still people out there that consider it evil and along those lines. And that is also one of the things that I kind of picked up on when I read it the first time. The language and the way the story was being told kind of threw me off. I couldn't quite figure out what was different about it. Then I went back and I actually read the Kickstarter. I didn't read the Kickstarter the first time because I wanted to see the book without any basically blind going in. So when I read the Kickstarter, Dave had written it along the style of the old Chick tracts. These things have been around since the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Chick tracts were little 3x5 books that were they touted the Christian philosophies, and they railed against the vices in life, alcoholism and promiscuity, and of course D&D when it came along in the 80s. There was one called Dark Dungeon that basically the story of the little Chick tract was that D&D was the gateway to Satan, and they actually showed this story where these players, that was how they got you people into Satan's cult, was to get them in on the D&D and then bring them into the cult. So this isn't necessarily a Chick tract, but he used the over-the-top storytelling, the outlandish situations and everything to kind of parody that, and also tell his story of a group of D&D players who are bullied every day, who are, high school's just hell for them, and how their one release is Dungeons and Dragons in the evening. So when they played, they kind of let their anger and their aggression out in the game. Well, to carry it to the horror side of it, you had that aggression actually manifest itself in real life. And this story goes on to tell how that happened, how they deal with it, and how they end up defeating that aggression and that manifested anger and save themselves. So, with that all being told, I really like the story. Very well told. The artwork is, again, just amazing. Again, 44 pages of artwork, and you can't beat it. So, granted, he doesn't have a Kickstarter out right now, but he says in the fall is when he's looking forward, as his words on Facebook in a message that he sent me, if the world doesn't implode. So here's hoping that it doesn't implode when we get a Kickstarter. I'll let you know when the Kickstarter is out and let you know how you can help him out. In the meantime, be looking for this. And in the meantime, go check out Dusk Comics. He's got a Facebook page. You can either contact him through there or through David Doub, D-O-U-B. He's got other books that are available. Check them out. I'm sure you'll enjoy them too. In the meantime, remember, read more comics, play more games, let your geek flag fly. We'll talk to you soon.